I love the liveliness, the constant feeling of energy.
Definitely the world-class education.
The diversity. Nah, the nightlife.
I would say the people.
For me, it's the stories. My name is Waja, and welcome to Toronto Story Archive. Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of Toronto Story Archive. So, back in the summer of 2016, I had just recently been introduced to a local event called Mo Mondays Toronto. Mo Mondays Toronto is a monthly speaker series taking place at the Hard Rock Cafe at Yonge and Dundas. Make sure you catch the next 3 or so of these because very soon it will be moving from the Hard Rock. Because the Hard Rock won't exist. It will be replaced with a Shoppers because we need more shoppers. I had a friend say to me recently that Yonge and Dundas is like our Times Square here in Toronto. If that's the case, I'm sure a Shoppers flagship store is exactly what we need to spruce up the place. Make it just right for tourism. God damn it. Anyway, so I'd been invited to speak at this event, Mo Mondays Toronto, and in preparation for it, I had to submit both a synopsis of my talk as well as a bio. Now, being a business student going into the corporate world, I had a bunch of those super formal bios lying around, one for every event or job or otherwise that I'd held over the last few years. You know the ones I'm talking about, like John Smith is a certified investment professional, graduated from Harvard University with honors. Since then, he has had the opportunity to work with numerous high-level investment firms, positively impacting the portfolio of over 300,000 investors, personally saving at least 60 dolphins, and traveling to the moon 3 times to date. Those ones. So, but for this though, I thought I would differentiate with something more fun, like a different line at the end, something that made me seem more personable. I decided to go with, in his spare time, Mo is a bona fide karaoke rock star, willing to lend his voice to any mic that will have him. So, the host, Michelle, gets up on stage and introduces me, and I get the appropriate chuckle, I feel confident, I feel empowered, and honestly, I crushed that talk. Afterwards, however, the host comes up to me and says, "Hey, so why don't you come out with us on Thursday night? We go to this bar called Statler's in the Village. It's a karaoke bar." I, of course, say, "Sure, absolutely." So Thursday comes round. I message a couple of my friends, and a lot of us go to Statler's. Now, karaoke at Statler's starts around 10 p.m. We get there closer to 11, though things are in full swing. The first thing I notice is that everyone is really good. And I'm not talking about like that one guy that gets up and crushes Rolling in the Deep, right? I mean like everyone from, rap music to like Celine Dion is really, really good. Now the second thing I notice is that there are no lyrics. No lyrics anywhere. No screens, nothing. People have either brought their own printed lyrics or they're reading them off iPads. Also, self-supplied. So, of course, the moment they see us, Michelle and his wife, Barbara, wave us over. We make our way a little more nervously now. In my head, I have already decided that this night, singing was not for me. I was going to sit, I was going to, have a drink, observe, relax, but I was definitely not going to get up and sing. Unfortunately, what I had decided and what the bar demanded were two very different things, because no sooner had the current song ended than the pianist, who I have since decided has some sort of like cybernetic noob identifier implanted into his eyes, locks onto me, and like the most friendly executioner ever, he's actually a really awesome dude. I was just like terrified, like truly terrified. But he waves me up onto the stage. Yes, there is a literal stage. So I bust out my iPhone 5 and quickly Google the lyrics to a karaoke favorite of mine, Bryan Adams' Summer of '69. Now, I know the iPhone 5 is pretty ancient technology, but for those of you who remember or have Google on hand, oh my sweet lord, that phone is small. Even with the zoom, I'm squinting at the screen while simultaneously trying to match the tune in my head to the sound of a live piano. And to someone as frankly musically incompetent as I am, that is hard as hell. I tanked like a champion. To the band's credit, they are consummate professionals and did a fantastic job of mitigating my existence upon that stage, which is no easy feat when the person singing over scrolls on their phone and misses literally the entire middle of the song. I mean, I don't have it recorded, but I might have literally just said, "It was the summer of '69" over and over and over and over again for the like blessedly brief time I was up there on the stage. Now, luckily for all of you, this week's episode will not be a documentary of my musical talents, or lack thereof. This week we have with us a lady who, that very same night, sang with the voice of an angel, which only made my experience more embarrassing. This week, I have the pleasure of chatting with Natasha Buckeridge. Natasha is a singer, actor, and voiceover artist whose voice can be heard gracing the stages of Randolph Theatre, Alleycast, the 120 Club, and of course, Statler's. Coming at us from, aptly, the Entertainment District, welcome Natasha.
Hello.
Natasha, how are you doing today?
Fabulous. Thank you very much. Apart from being a bit gravelly, it's all good.
All good, all good. Natasha, I'd like to start by asking you the one major question that we ask everyone who gets on Toronto Story Archive, and that is, what is one thing you love about Toronto?
Well, the main thing is the people for me. I don't know, even though we're in the middle of a city, I just find people have got a lot of respect for one another and like just a really accepting attitude. Obviously, there are elements of the standoffish in any city, but as a whole, I've got more friends now than I ever have in my life since I've moved here 5 years ago. So it's just the people. The people make the city.
I feel that completely. I mean, I mentioned this almost every podcast, but there's always been a transition point for me because I moved here from North Bay, which is a city about 3 or 4 hours north of Toronto. And I mean, in every city you have your idiosyncrasies, right? You have people that you like, people that you don't, people that you get along with. But I've always found that there are just, I guess, so many people with different perspectives, different ideas, and they're so interesting to meet here. And I mean, I've heard the horror stories, but on the whole, they've been very welcoming as well.
Indeed. I mean, we've all got our horror stories, our funny stories, and, you know, things happen, don't they, in life. But yeah, generally, as a whole, I just, I think, I mean, without getting too gushy, since I've moved here, really, Toronto has made me a better person. Gush, gush, gush.
Really? Okay. Hold on though. That's something that, I mean, I don't know if we hear that often, that moving to the big city makes someone a better person. I can say for myself, I don't know what kind of person Toronto's made me per se, but I don't know if I'd almost consider it better just by merit of the fact that since I've been here, you know, you're inundated with so many of those people that I feel like some people just kind of, you know, shut down. So you think Toronto's made you a better person? How so?
I do. I don't think I was a horrible person before I moved here, but just I don't think so anyway. But the friends I've made and the people I've met, I don't know, they've kind of switched my mind, I don't know, to a more positive attitude and made me think about things, the way I go about things differently and the way I think about things, just through the conversations I've had and other people's opinions and the way they go about things. Yeah, definitely, for sure. It's turned me, I think, into a better, more accepting person.
That's fantastic. I mean, I guess in part it's also the places you go and the places you hang out. So, I mean, I think the first time we met was at Statler's. And now, Statler's has a singularly fantastic crowd. I mean, I just got through telling our audience about my first singing experience of Statler's, which was, you know, just tanked like a champion.
No,
But yeah, no.
Oh dear. No, it's like a family in there. It really is.
No, it's true. I mean, I found Statler's so interesting because you have the like, and it's the regulars. They all show up on Thursdays. They're all ready to sing it. I mean, what they're pitching is karaoke, but I'm so sorry. That's not karaoke. Karaoke has lyrics. You don't have to be good. They tell you what to say. You know, what is this bring your own lyrics karaoke thing? That's an open mic.
Yeah, it is open mic, and I mean the talent you find there is just amazing on occasion. It's just, but you don't have to be good. It's just the atmosphere. It's just, and people want each other to do well, which is one thing I find amazing. And well, the thing I love.
That is very true. It is a very supportive atmosphere, you know? Like everybody, there are a lot of people who are very, very talented there, but those same people want everybody else to get to the same level and be as talented as they are. So, like, Natasha, what's your story? Where do you come from? When did you come to Toronto?
When did I come to Toronto? I came about, well, actually, I came for about 6 months in 2012 because I followed my then partner, now husband. Yay!
Congratulations.
I followed him here. Oh, thank you. So he had a 6 month contract, and when that 6 months was up, we had to move back. And even though I hadn't made as many friends as I've made now, and I didn't really know anyone, it was just the place and the people, as I say. I couldn't stop thinking about Toronto. There wasn't one single day that I didn't think and pine for Toronto.
That's awesome. I felt, I mean, obviously my distance was not quite so great, being, 3 to 4 hours versus the UK. But I mean, I felt the same way. After my first semester in chemical engineering at U of T, I ended up failing out like a champion, kind of like my first night at Statler's. And I ended up having to move back to, yeah, I ended up having to move back to North Bay, my hometown. And I went for a semester at Nipissing University there before eventually moving back to Toronto. And that entire time, I guess, like 6 months or so throughout the winter semester and the summer that I was in North Bay, all I kept thinking of was how much I wanted to move back to Toronto, how much I wanted to see Toronto again, experience the city and the people and the place and all the, things to do around here. Like, the city has an appeal to it.
Oh, for sure. Good grief. I mean, that's one of the things, as you just said, there's always something to do, somewhere to go. And I didn't even live I lived right out at Young and Shepherd at the time. But when we came back, we moved right downtown, and we came back because of the boyfriend's work again. But we just, because he kept getting sent out here all the time, and he wasn't at home, we just thought, oh, I know, let's just move there. Let's see if we can just like make a life there, which I was over the moon about because I loved it so much. Yes, and there's always something to do, especially in the summer. Every weekend there's a festival. The streets close down for some reason, and there's always something going on. It's just so vibrant. It's great.
And the really cool part is that as long as you've lived here, there's always something else to do. Like, I'll be honest with you, when I'm going through the places that you sing at or have sung at, like, I haven't actually been to some of those places. Of the ones that I mentioned, it's only Statler's and Alley Cats that I've actually been to. Otherwise, I've never been to Randolph's Theater or the 120 Club or any of those other ones. So no matter how long you've been here, and I've been here nearly 10 years at this point, there's always something else. There's always something else to do,
For sure. I mean, my husband and I, when we're walking around, we see so many different places that we'd like, well, obviously not at the time, but we'd like to pop in and have a look. We always forget. I think I should start taking pictures of club fronts and shop fronts and things and cafe fronts, because there's always somewhere that we'd fancy going, but you could go somewhere or eat out or go to a music venue every night of the week and you still wouldn't get around them all. It's great.
It's absolutely true. Like, I lived before, and this is how I was introduced to Alley Cats, at Yonge and Eglinton. So I was right there, and every other day I'd go running north on Eglinton, all the way up near to like Lawrence Station and whatnot. And I'd see all these places. I'm like, I gotta go there, I gotta go there, I've gotta go there. But I can honestly say that at the end of living at Yonge and Egg for about 4 years, I went to maybe like a fifth of the places that I said I was gonna go see. Now living very, very near the Danforth, it's the same deal. I mean, I've been to more of those places over the last 2 years because myself and my fiance have gone out of our way to make sure that we check out a lot of those places. But it's still, it's almost impossible to cover everything, like everything you want to see.
there's a whole new gamut now. Now that you've moved to the Sunfall, there's a whole new gamut of places just shouting out to be visited.
Exactly. Like it's like Toronto is this series of micro cities, these little places that have put together these communities that sometimes it can literally take over an hour to get from one to the other. And it's in a very real way. It's like you've traveled to a different city from going from point A at like the Danforth all the way to the entertainment district, for instance.
That's right. I mean, I live down near Queen's Quay, just across from the Rogers Centre, and I mean, there's Chinatown just there. There's the entertainment district, Kensington Market. There's the annex. It's all. I mean, it's just all of these different little districts in walking distance of one another, and it's like being, as you say, like being in a different whole other town or city.
So I've only been to the UK once, and that was a good number of years ago. So, I mean, how have you found the difference in I guess culture, living, city style versus where you lived in the UK, and where is that versus living here now in Toronto?
Well, I've lived in a few different places in the UK, but I've never lived in a city before, so that was just a whole total different thing anyway. Where I was living before I got here, this time, I was living in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the countryside, which is lovely. But, you know, it gets a bit boring after a while, I guess. Yeah, coming to Toronto, well, I love the city life. I love the busyness of it. But also, the only thing I really miss about the UK are the people and the family, my family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find the difference in, I suppose, the oldness of the architecture and things like that. I must be getting old. When I go back to the UK, I just think, oh, aren't these buildings lovely and old? And isn't this stone beautiful? I'm definitely getting old. But, yeah, I mean, there's a difference in that because Toronto Canada's a pretty young country, isn't it? So you're going to get that. But, yeah, I just love the high rises and just the massiveness of everything in the city because I've never had it before, so it's great.
Well, it's very true what you're talking about regarding the buildings. I mean, Canada only just celebrated its like 150th anniversary or so. And the thing is that even when I've traveled in Europe, there's such a distinct tenure to the buildings and the places and stuff like that. Like you can feel the history in the streets, and it's something that I've always enjoyed about traveling out of country. And it's not just in Europe. Even when I travel to like India or Morocco, right? It's different. It's different places have that ancient feel about them and that tenure that you can kind of sense the stories and the histories within the buildings that you're seeing. And Toronto hasn't quite gotten there yet. I mean, we can see our European ancestry in the buildings around us, but we haven't quite reached that point yet, you know?
That's right. But I still find myself, even though I love all the history and the architecture, when I'm in the UK, I consider Toronto home now. I consider Canada home. So I always, after about 2 weeks, I've had enough, and I have a little bit of a panic attack. I need to get back. I have withdrawal symptoms. I have to get back to Toronto. That must be telling me something.
For sure. I mean, it's funny how that happens, right? Like, I have this conversation with family members all the time when they're like, yeah, but you know, North Bay is your home. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not really though, you know? Because home isn't just where you happen to be born or where you happen to grow up. It comes down to where you decide to make that home, to make that place. And similarly to you, for me, that ended up being Toronto. I mean, I fell in love with this city more or less the moment I moved here. So, when you were in the UK, when you were back in the UK, did you do a lot of singing there? Because I mean, every time I've seen you, you've been crushing some chords, you know, be it at Statler's or Mo Mondays or otherwise. So how did you get into singing, acting, voiceover work? And is that what you were doing in the UK primarily? How did you translate that here?
Well, I kind of started off at a young age, you know, in community theatre and stuff. So it was mostly theatre and musical theatre. And then I started semi-professional and professional musical theatre. But when I left school, I just got a job in a retail store. And my dad wasn't very happy about that. So he applied on my behalf. I don't know if you have these kind of things over here, but it was like a resort, but on land, like a cruise ship basically, but on land. And they have entertainment teams that do, that also do daytime duties, and PR with guests and whatnot and so forth. My application, my dad's application, was successful anyway, and I got sent off to the Isle of Wight to do this thing, and it was great. But they have a resident band in all these places. It's like a big chain, and the band singer left to go on to something different, and I joined the band in 1997. Yeah, 1997. And from then on, I guess it's just a full-time job, traveling around the country with these different bands at these different resorts. So I kind of gave up on the theatre stuff, and I did a bit of film and television. But that was my main income for a lot of years.
That's really interesting. So how did that translate over when you moved from the UK to Toronto then?
Well, this is basically my story. It didn't at all. I was a professional singer, and my income, I was getting paid well for like 15 years. But then I met my boyfriend at the time, and I'd been doing it for ages. But because I had a closed kind of shop, a specific list of contacts and colleagues, when I moved around, because Steve travels around a lot with his work. I used to follow him from place to place up and down the UK, and I kind of not lost all my contacts, but they weren't in the places where I was, so I had to keep starting again and again, and I couldn't get work, which was a bit upsetting. I didn't sing for 3 years, because not even in the shower, because it would just make it not even in the shower. It just hurt too much. It needed to come out. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So when we eventually came over here with his job, because he was working away still. We came over here to be with his job over here, but he kept getting sent to the US. So I thought, I'm not going over there. I don't stay here. But so I take myself out a lot. I take myself to open mics. I take myself out to gigs, jazz gigs at Rex and Grossman's Tavern and all the New Orleans jazz. I love all that. And as I say, open mics, and I take myself to Statler's. And from there, this is what I was talking about earlier, the accepting attitude, the positive outlook of people, and people are willing to give you an opportunity, because I couldn't get work in the UK, but I sang at the Rex, or sat in for a couple of numbers once or twice, and then I started to get gigs, and I sat in on, I used to go to open mic at Statler's, and from there the manager or the owner offered me a gig there. That I just found people were just very, very willing to give you a chance, which I didn't find in the UK,
I feel that completely. I mean, that's really interesting, because I guess, for the rest of us who aren't in the singing business or in any way affiliated with the singing industry on the whole, I guess it doesn't really occur to you that so much of one's ability to grow their career, especially in, I guess, the earlier stages of it onwards, is based upon the contacts that you make still being there when you need them, or being in the same places that you are. I guess in the world of Spotify and iTunes, we almost don't think of music as a necessarily location-based vocation, whereas it seems like that in a very real way, the location and your presence and that ability to connect personally and physically matters to your business.
Yeah, that's right. And also, my one big regret over the years, even though I was doing it for such a long time with the same people, I didn't accrue any sheet music. I didn't accrue any proof really that I'd ever done it. I had no proof whatsoever that I'd ever had a singing career. I had no videos because at the time, people didn't. It wasn't a thing. You couldn't just get your phone out and video stuff. I didn't have no sheet music. I had no demo. I had no proof whatsoever. And people, they take a leap of faith, don't they? You've got to take your word for it. And I just find, as I was saying before, just an accepting attitude and a willingness to give people a bit of a chance.
See, that's so interesting, right? I mean, it's almost like crazy to consider because in today's day and age, like for myself, so I started a career doing professional speaking, and one of the first things that I made sure I did was I press ganged my fiance into coming with me to a bunch of the initial gigs so that she could take pictures, she could take video, she could make sure she recorded my voice. I went and got a bunch of recording equipment so that everything I was doing was recorded on some level. But it's so easy to do that now. I mean, your average phone has a camera of some kind, and even grainy video is still video, I suppose, But I guess it wasn't as easy. It wasn't as easy when you needed that proof of concept. You're opening up a version of the singing industry that I think for most of us we don't really have an opportunity to see. We don't really see that element, that back and forth where it's finding gigs. And I mean, I can't imagine coming to the city without any of that proof of concept and now having to reboot your entire career really in a different context.
Yeah. It's I've had to start again. But I'm so happy. I'm happier than I've ever been in I'm not singing quite as much as I was in the UK, but I've got other things going on. I've got theatre, I've got my voiceover. I've started coaching accent work on occasion.
Oh, wow.
I'm just happy. Yeah, I'm happier than I've ever been.
That's awesome. So, I mean, can you tell us a little bit more about what the singing scene is like in Toronto? I mean, I'm interested. This is such a unique element of the city to me that I have very literally no idea about. So, what is the singing scene like in Toronto? Like, if you want to make it as a singer, or at least begin making it as a singer in Toronto, what does that look like for you?
I think it's just all about self-promotion, and going to places and integrating yourself with the people who are there, the locals. That's what I did for a whole year, and because I was on my own, I just got myself out. I think people thought my husband or my then boyfriend was a figment of my imagination because he was never there. And I used to talk about him all the time. I thought that I'm sure they were just nodding their head and smiling, thinking, no, he doesn't exist at all. But yeah, I would go to these places and chat to people and listen and appreciate. And, if you're there and you're able to get a foot in or a demo, that would be great. I still haven't got one.
A what, sorry?
A demo.
Oh, a demo. Yes, I could see that. See, when you say the word demo, right? I think like my knowledge of the word demo is like someone's telling me they have a new, marketing aggregation tool or something like that. Like, oh, let me show you a demo. Let's get on a call and go through that. It's like just like the word just blanked out completely with me for a moment. They're like, a demo? What? What is this? What software is this? I don't understand. Well, I mean, I'm just saying, studies have apparently shown that the UK accent makes one seem more intelligent and wiser to the other people they're speaking to. So if anything, the accent is an advantage. Exactly. No, that's really cool. I mean, it's interesting, right? You're experiencing a different part of Toronto that has never, I guess, even occurred to me to try to experience. The beginning and end of my musical knowledge and experience is karaoke, I guess, and a little bit of like the video game Rock Band. That's about the size of it, you know what I mean? And at least in those kind of environments, everybody's had a few, so they're listening to you, but at least they've dulled their ears a little bit just a little bit, just the right amount, you know? So you sound a lot more epic than you otherwise would have, you know?
Going back to what you said about Statler and you tanking, you really didn't. And open mic is very nerve-wracking because it's real live musicians. You don't know what they're going to do. At least if you've got a backing track, you can, and if it's directly from the record, at least you know what it's going to do. You know.
Yeah. I attribute the beginning and end to any success that I have had at Statler's to the band, you know, because they're fantastic. They know exactly what's happening. I think the last time I went there, I was going to sing Behind Blue Eyes, or I sang Behind Blue Eyes. And I went up, and on my way up, I told Donovan, I'm like, man, just, you know, give me a nod when I'm supposed to start singing and another nod when I'm supposed to stop.
That's funny. I mean, on a regular basis, I stuff up. I really do. And you wouldn't know because they just keep going or they just cover seamlessly my gaff. So it's brilliant.
Oh, absolutely. Even like the first time I went there, I missed the entire middle of the song, you know, because I didn't realize that you had to supply your own lyrics. So I had this tiny ass iPhone 5 and I over scroll and I just I realize immediately that I've missed a huge chunk of this song. And I just look at Donovan and he just shakes his head, keep on going, and just completely adjusts. And I'm like, yes, there we go. Hopefully less people notice that epic blunder right there.
I didn't notice.
Well then the band did their job very well. The band did their job very, very well. Oh man, no, Statler's is a lot of fun. Oh man. But yeah, no. So Natasha, at this stage of the game, I mean, we've talked about a lot of places. We've talked about the singing scene in Toronto and how that changed the game for you, moving from the UK and having to really reboot your career, right? And I mean, I was on your website. I noticed you do have video now, which is good. I was enjoying your Statler's, you know, cover of Rolling in the Deep recently, which was pretty on point. Not gonna lie to you, that was pretty sweet. But yeah, I guess I want to move forward by asking you the other major question that we ask everyone who features on Toronto Story Archive, and that is, if you could recommend one place to go or one thing to do in Toronto, what would it be? I mean, feel free to plug in a couple of the places where the open mics, karaoke's, and otherwise happen. I mean, don't restrict yourself to one. But yeah, a place to go, thing to do in Toronto. What would that be?
Oh no, that's too hard. Well, obviously, I've been speaking about it for the last 20 minutes, so it would be rude of me not to recommend Statler's. It's a place where, if it weren't for Statler's or Donovan, I wouldn't probably be doing half the things I'm doing in a minute. So that is one for sure place on a Thursday night. Yay, open mic. Great, such a positive atmosphere, and it's like a family. It is. And yeah, so that's one, but it's not just one. I mean, the historic Grossman Tavern, and on a weekend, if you're out on a Saturday afternoon, is New Orleans jazz with all the brass and all the, I don't know, and that plonky piano that's really out of tune, but it just sounds great. Yeah.
Where's that?
That's on Spadina, just south of College. And it's a great place. There's great atmosphere, young and old. And also swing dancers will turn up and start just randomly dancing in the middle of the floor. This is in the afternoon as well. It's great.
Oh, man. No, that is so cool. Thank you so much, Natasha, for agreeing to be on Toronto Story Archive. It has been an absolute pleasure having you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Mo. It's been a pleasure talking to you, too.
Fantastic. And that's a wrap for this week's episode of Toronto Story Archive. Each episode, we bring on guests from Toronto to tell us a story, any story, about their life in the city. Our commitment is to not sell, pitch, or bore you. Our goal is to amuse, excite, and at the end of the day, entertain you with stories told by the many voices Toronto has to offer. If you have a story to share, please shoot me an email to submissions@torontostoryarchive.com. My name is Mo Waja, And thank you. Thank you for tuning in to Toronto Story Archive.